Have you ever seen this image before? It's rather common in creepy Japanese circles of the internet, and shows a man looking back at a security camera with an odd, some might say creepy smile on his face. What makes this even creepier, however, is that people claim this is an image of the actual culprit behind the thus far unsolved kidnappings and deaths of 5 girls in the Tochigi and Gunma areas during the 1980s and 90s. But is there any truth to those rumours, and where did this image come from to begin with? First, a little background. The North Kanto serial kidnappings case started in 1979, when a 5-year-old girl from Ashikaga in Tochigi Prefecture went missing. She was unfortunately found deceased just shy of a week later. Another girl went missing in 1984, then in 1987, 1990, and finally, the last girl counted as part of this same case went missing in 1996. The reason these individual cases are all lumped together, despite the fact nobody knows who the suspect, or suspects, might be, is their scary similarities. The ages of the victims, where they went missing, where they were found, and even the times they went missing, for the most part, match. Most girls went missing near pachinko parlours, most were found near a river, and most happened on a Friday or day off. But as of making this video, none of these cases have been solved. However, there was security footage captured of the man police believe to be their main suspect. In it, you can see him wearing a hat and sunglasses, with long pants, a jacket, and a shirt. He's also described as being 158 centimeters tall. But that's it. That was all the information they had, and you can't even see his face clearly. This footage came from the final 1996 disappearance. However, eyewitnesses from the 1990 case confirmed that the man in the footage looked just like the man they had seen. But is it the same man in this photo that's now so infamous on the internet? If so, wouldn't that be a major breakthrough, considering that it's the first time we can clearly see his face? Well, as it turns out, no. The man is still a criminal, but from a different case entirely. As it turns out, this image is actually from an incident that took place on July 10th, 2008. Well after the North Kanto cases. It's surprisingly not that difficult to find, and there's even still video footage online from news reports at the time. It was footage of a man who attacked several staff members in a convenience store in Osaka during a robbery attempt. The then 39-year-old man reportedly hung around the store for nearly an hour before making his move, giving the security cameras plenty of time to capture him and the huge bag he was carrying from all angles. And it was after this footage was released, including the picture in question, that an acquaintance apparently recognized him and reported him to the police. The man was then arrested a week later. This then begs the question, how did a man from a convenience store robbery in Osaka in 2008 come to be associated with a series of kidnappings that took place in North Kanto in the 1980s and 90s? Even now, if you look up the case, this man's image is one of the first images that pops up. He's even used in various YouTube videos talking about the case. But why? How? As you can guess from this video being an internet mystery, we once again have NeChannel to thank for this one. Shortly after the man was arrested for his attempted robbery of the convenience store, a thread went up talking about it, which included several pictures of the suspect, including the now infamous creepy smile looking at the camera. Naturally, NeChannelers in the thread found the image off-putting and even kind of scary, with some suggesting he looked possessed. And let's be real, it doesn't take much for NeChannelers to claim everything is haunted or cursed or out to get you. That's kinda just what they do for fun over there. And so, when new scary image threads popped up, because those are always all the rage, the possessed image of the attempted convenience store thief smiling at the camera was added to the rotation. Without context, or history, of course. And if you don't know anything about it, well, it does look at least a little creepy, doesn't it? And it's not like this was a big crime either. It was an attempted robbery of a convenience store somewhere in Osaka, in which some staff members were injured and the suspect swiftly arrested. That was that. So when Nichannel took a liking to the creepy image and kept sharing it without that all-important context, well, it took on a life of its own. As the years went on, most people either didn't know or didn't remember where it came from. It was just some creepy guy smiling at a security camera, and no normal person would do that, right? But with all that in mind, how did it specifically come to be associated with the North Kanto cases? Well, in 2014, someone posted on Yahoo Answers asking who the man in the Nichannel image was. Here, one of the answers suggested it was security footage of the man from the North Kanto case. That was it. Someone on Yahoo Answers wasn't quite sure, and that was all people needed to run with it. After all, the internet wouldn't lie to you, would it? And so, an untrue legend that can easily be verified was born. That man smiling creepily at the security camera, who's so often shared in scary image threads, was actually the person behind all those kidnappings and deaths. The man who was never caught. Because that's a lot more frightening than guy who tried to rob a combini and failed, right? There's a certain culture around scary images like these that's a sort of don't ask, don't tell. The truth isn't necessarily what matters. It's what we can imagine simply by looking at the image. A shared terror we're united in by looking at something with no context and imagining all the horrible things it could be, not necessarily what it actually is. And so, ultimately, the truth is not too important when you just want to get a cheap thrill on the internet and then quickly move on to the next scary image. That being said, for someone like me, I find the history behind how these images become popular and the stories they come to encapsulate to be the most interesting part of them. Do I think the image itself is scary? Not at all. But learning the history of it and seeing how the truth was stripped of it so it could basically become Nichannel fodder, only to morph into a case of mistaken identity that's still shared online today, is a fascinating look into some minor Japanese horror internet history. But what did you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like to help support this channel so you can see more content like this, please consider hitting that join button down below as well. Every bit of support really helps. Thanks guys, and I'll see you again next time.